AITA for refusing to apologize to my family after I enforced a rule at my own house and embarrassed my sister in front of everyone. I, 28F, bought my house 2 years ago after a lot of saving and some help from first-time buyer program. It is not huge or fancy, but it is mine, and I am very proud of it. My family has always been very close, sometimes to the point of being a little too involved in each other's lives. I am the oldest of 3 siblings, and for most of my life, I was expected to be the responsible one who keeps the peace. My younger sister, Lily, 25F, is very social and spontaneous. She is also the type of person who assumes that what works for her should work for everyone else. We get along most of the time, but we clash when it comes to boundaries. Lily still lives with our parents, partly by choice and partly because she likes the convenience. Their house is loud, busy, and always full of people dropping by. Mine is not. I work from home, I like routines, and my house rules are simple. No unannounced guests, clean up after yourself, and respect quiet hours after 10 p.m. Last month, my parents asked if we could host a small family dinner at my place to celebrate my dad's birthday. I agreed, with the understanding that it would just be immediate family, my parents, my siblings, and my brother's partner. I planned the menu, cleaned the house, and made it clear to everyone that I wanted a calm evening. Lily said sure and didn't argue, which in hindsight should have been my first warning sign. On the day of the dinner, everything started out fine. People arrived on time, gifts were exchanged, and we sat down to eat. About halfway through the meal, the doorbell rang. I was confused because everyone I expected was already there. Lily jumped up and said, "Oh, that must be Jake," as if this explained everything. Jake is a friend of hers that I've met once. Before I could say anything, she opened the door and let him in. I was honestly stunned. She didn't ask me beforehand or even give me a heads up. Jake seemed equally awkward and said Lily told him to stop by for cake. I pulled Lily aside and quietly reminded her of the agreement. She rolled her eyes and said I was being dramatic and that it was just one person. I told her that wasn't the point and asked her to take him back home or at least step outside to explain. Lily refused and said I was embarrassing her. At that point, my patience snapped. I told her in front of everyone that this was my house, my event, and she had ignored a clear boundary. I asked Jake to leave, apologizing to him directly and making it clear it wasn't his fault. The room went silent. Jake left, clearly uncomfortable. Lily burst into tears and accused me of humiliating her. My mom said I should have handled it privately. My dad looked disappointed, but didn't say much. The rest of the dinner was tense and awkward, and everyone left early. Since then, my phone has been blowing up. Lily says I owe her a huge apology for treating her like a child and making her look bad. My mom says I was technically right, but emotionally wrong, and that family gatherings shouldn't be about rules. My brother is staying neutral, but hinted that I might have gone too far. From my perspective, this wasn't about control or being petty. It was about respect. I set a clear expectation, and Lily ignored it because she assumed I'd back down to avoid conflict. If I had let it slide, it would have reinforced the idea that my boundaries don't matter in my own home. I do feel bad that Jake was caught in the middle, and I wish Lily hadn't been so upset, but I don't feel like I did anything wrong by standing my ground. Now my parents are pressuring me to apologize for the sake of harmony, and Lily is barely speaking to me unless it's to accuse me of being cold and selfish. So AITA for refusing to apologize and for enforcing my house rules, even when it caused a scene at a family celebration. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. AITA for refusing to give my sister the family lake house for her wedding after years of being told it wasn't really mine. I, 28F, grew up in a family that looked normal from the outside, but ran almost entirely on unspoken rules. The biggest one was that my younger sister, Lena, 26F, needed extra support. My parents said it was because she was sensitive and emotional, while I was independent and low maintenance. That label stuck to me early and never left. If something needed to be sacrificed, it was usually mine because I could handle it. When my grandparents passed away 8 years ago, they left their small lake house to me. It wasn't huge or fancy, but it was the one place in my childhood where things felt calm. My grandparents and I were close, and they were very explicit in their will that the house was left to me because I spent summers helping them maintain it. My parents told me they agreed with the decision, but immediately added that I shouldn't think of it as just mine because family helps family. For years, that meant I paid the taxes, repairs, and upkeep while everyone else used it freely. I never charged anyone. If something broke, it was my responsibility. If I wanted to renovate, I had to run it by my parents because they didn't want me to do anything that might upset Lena someday. I was told repeatedly that while the house was technically mine, I should act like it belonged to everyone. Fast forward to now. Lena is getting married next summer. She and her fiancé are planning a big destination wedding, but realized it's way over their budget. A few weeks ago, my parents invited me over for dinner and casually brought up the lake house. They suggested it would be the perfect venue for the wedding and reception. Not just a small ceremony, but a full weekend event with tents, decorations, and around 120 guests. I hesitated and said I needed to think about it. My mom immediately looked offended and said, "Think about what? It's your sister." My dad added that this was a chance for me to finally show that I'm supportive instead of always keeping score. That hurt because I don't feel like I've ever kept score. I just quietly absorb things. Later that week, Lena called me and didn't ask. She told me her vision for the wedding, including cutting down a few trees to improve the view, installing a temporary dock extension, and repainting the boathouse because the current color didn't match her theme. I said no. I told her she could have a small ceremony there, limited guests, and no permanent changes. She got quiet and then said, "I guess it makes sense you be selfish about it. You always have been." That comment hit something in me. I told her the truth, that I've paid for everything, that I've been told for years it's not really mine, while also being fully responsible for it, and that I'm tired of being expected to give without limits. I said if the house isn't mine, then I shouldn't be paying for it, and if it is mine, then I get to say no. She cried to my parents. Now my phone is full of messages saying I'm ruining her wedding, that my grandparents would be ashamed, and that I'm choosing a building over my sister. My mom even said that if I don't let Lena have the house for the wedding, I shouldn't expect help from them with anything in the future. That stung because I realized how conditional their support always was. I told them my final answer is no to the big wedding. I'm still willing to let them do a very small ceremony with no alterations. But Lena says that would be humiliating and that I clearly don't care about her happiness. Some extended family members have started reaching out, saying I'm being dramatic and that weddings are once-in-a-lifetime events. I feel guilty, but also weirdly calm for the first time in years. I finally said no and meant it. Still, everyone I know seems to think I'm the problem. AITA? AITA for refusing to apologize to my family after I ruined a holiday by exposing a lie. AITA for this? I'm 27F, the oldest of 3 siblings. My brother Mark is 25, my sister Lena is 22. Growing up, I was always the responsible one. I worked part-time in high school, helped with bills, babysat, and generally kept my head down. Mark, on the other hand, was the golden child. He could do no wrong. If he forgot something, it was because he was stressed. If I forgot, it was because I was careless. Fast forward to now. I live on my own, pay my own way, and keep contact with my family mostly out of obligation. Mark still lives at home with our parents. He works on and off, usually quitting jobs because of toxic managers. My parents constantly tell me to be patient with him because he's finding himself. Every year, my family does a week-long holiday at a rented house. I usually dread it, but go anyway. This year, my parents asked everyone to chip in. I sent my share immediately. Mark said he would pay later. That's normal for him. When we arrived, things were tense but manageable. On the second night, my mom thanked everyone for contributing and made a point of praising Mark for covering part of the cost, even though money is tight for him. I was confused but didn't say anything. Later, my dad joked that Mark was really stepping up and helping the family now instead of always relying on us. Again, confusing, but I let it go. The problem started when my aunt, who joined us for dinner, thanked Mark directly for paying extra to upgrade the house. Mark smiled and said, "Yeah, I figured I owed it to everyone after everything you've done for me." Everyone applauded him. I felt like I was in a parallel universe. After dinner, I asked my mom privately what she meant by Mark paying extra. She told me Mark had given the money weeks ago and even loaned them some because my dad's hours were cut. This immediately raised red flags. I know my parents' finances very well because I've helped them budget before. Their story didn't add up, and Mark has borrowed money from me twice this year. I checked our group chat and the payment receipts from the rental site. The full amount was covered by me, my parents, and Lena. There was no extra payment, no upgrade fee for Mark. Nothing. I confronted Mark in private. I showed him the receipts and asked why everyone thought he paid. He got defensive and said our parents probably misunderstood. When I asked why he didn't correct them, he snapped and said I was jealous and trying to make him look bad. The next day, my parents brought up how proud they were of Mark again, this time in front of everyone. I finally lost it. I calmly said that wasn't true and that Mark hadn't paid anything at all. I showed the receipts. The room went silent. My mom immediately started crying. My dad accused me of humiliating Mark on purpose. Mark stormed out and didn't come back until late that night. The rest of the trip was miserable. No one spoke to me unless it was to tell me how cruel I'd been. After we got home, my parents called me and said I owed Mark an apology for embarrassing him and damaging his confidence. They said it didn't matter whether he paid or not because family should support each other and I should have talked to them privately. I reminded them that I tried and that Mark was lying and letting them praise him for something he didn't do. They told me I was being petty, that I always need to be right, and that this is why family gatherings are stressful. Lena is on my side, but says I should just apologize to keep the peace. I genuinely don't think I did anything wrong. I'm tired of being expected to stay quiet while Mark gets credit for things he doesn't do, and I get treated like the problem. But the backlash has been so intense that I'm starting to doubt myself. So AITA for refusing to apologize after exposing my brother's lie and ruining the holiday? AITA for refusing to apologize after I ruined my sister's wedding planning by setting a boundary? AITA for refusing to apologize after I ruined my sister's wedding planning by setting a boundary? I, 27F, am the middle child. My older sister Mia, 30F, has always been the golden child. She's outgoing, confident, and very good at making everything sound reasonable when it benefits her. I'm quieter and more practical, and growing up I was often told to just be flexible because Mia had big feelings. Mia got engaged last year and announced that her wedding would be in her hometown. I was genuinely happy for her and congratulated her right away. A few weeks later, she called me and told me she wanted me to be her maid of honor. I was surprised because we're not super close, but I said yes because I thought it was an olive branch and I wanted to support her. At first, things were fine. I helped her research venues, made spreadsheets for guest lists, and even designed a rough seating chart for free because I'm good with organization. She'd text me constantly, sometimes late at night, asking for opinions. I didn't mind until it started crossing into expectation instead of appreciation. Mia works part-time by choice, while I work full-time and am finishing a certification course. She started scheduling planning calls during my work hours and would get annoyed if I didn't answer. When I told her I couldn't talk during the day, she said, "Well, weddings don't plan themselves." The real issue started with the bachelorette weekend. Mia wanted a 4-day trip to a resort about 6 hours away. The cost per person would be around $900, not including food. She assumed I'd coordinate everything and front the money until everyone paid me back. I told her that wasn't realistic for me, financially or time-wise. She laughed and said, "It's my once-in-a-lifetime wedding." I suggested a shorter trip closer to home or even a one-night stay somewhere nice. She immediately accused me of not caring enough and said all her friends agreed the original plan was normal. I later found out she hadn't actually asked them yet. Then she dropped the final bomb. She told me she expected me to pay for my dress, shoes, hair, makeup, part of the bachelorette, my own hotel for the wedding, and also contribute to a surprise gift for her and her fiancé. When I added it all up, it was over $1,500. I told her I couldn't afford that and needed to scale back. She said, "If you can't do this, maybe you shouldn't be maid of honor." I was hurt but calm. I told her that if her expectations required me to go into debt, I'd rather step down than resent her later. I offered to still be a bridesmaid and help where I reasonably could. She exploded. She accused me of abandoning her, embarrassing her, and making everything about money. Our mom called me later that night and said I needed to apologize because Mia was crying and stressed, and weddings are emotional. I said I understood she was stressed, but I hadn't done anything wrong by being honest. My mom told me that as her sister, I should sacrifice more and that people will remember this. After that, Mia sent me a long text saying I'd ruined the experience, that her friends now thought I was unreliable, and that she had to scramble to replace me. I replied briefly that I was sorry she felt hurt, but I wasn't sorry for setting a boundary. Now my family is divided. My dad says I should have just done what I could and kept the peace. My aunt says Mia was asking too much. Mia hasn't spoken to me in weeks and has removed me from the wedding party entirely. Part of me feels relieved, but another part wonders if I should have just swallowed it and paid, because now every family gathering is awkward and I'm being treated like the difficult one. So, AITA for refusing to apologize and stepping down instead of going along with my sister's wedding demands. AITA for refusing to give my sister the house I inherited, even though the rest of my family says I don't need it. I, 28F, grew up in a pretty average family. My parents divorced when I was 10, and my mom raised my younger sister Lily, 25F, and me in a small town. My dad stayed involved, but emotionally and financially my mom carried most of the weight. We didn't have much money, but we had stability. The one constant in my childhood was my grandmother's house. It was a modest 3-bedroom place with a big backyard, peeling paint, and a kitchen that always smelled like coffee. My grandma basically raised me after school, while my mom worked double shifts. I did homework at her kitchen table, learned to bake from her, and slept over so often that I had my own drawer by the time I was 7. When my grandma passed away 3 years ago, it hit me hard. She was the person who always showed up, remembered my favorite snacks, and listened without judging. In her will, she left the house to me. Not jointly, not to both grandchildren, just to me. I was shocked and honestly felt guilty, but my grandma had explained it to me years earlier. I had helped her a lot in her later years, driving her to appointments, managing bills, and eventually taking time off work to care for her after a fall. Lily was away at college and not very involved, which I don't blame her for, but my grandma said she wanted the house to go to someone who would keep it and love it. After the inheritance, I moved into the house and put a lot of my savings into fixing it up. The roof needed repairs, the plumbing was outdated, and the yard was basically a jungle. I didn't flip it for profit or rent it out. I made it my home. I still work full-time and budget carefully because homeownership is expensive, but it feels like the one solid thing I have. Here's where the problem starts. Lily recently got married and had a baby. Her husband lost his job earlier this year, and they're struggling. They've been renting a small apartment, and their lease is ending soon. My mom called me and said Lily was stressed and scared about housing, and she suggested that I let Lily and her family move into my house. I said I'd be open talking about them staying temporarily, maybe renting a room, but my mom immediately said that wasn't what she meant. She meant I should give Lily the house. I laughed at first because I genuinely thought she was joking. She wasn't. My mom said that Lily needs the house more than I do because she has a child, and that it's selfish for me to hold on to a whole house when I live alone. She also said that Grandma would want the house used to raise a family. I reminded her that Grandma left it to me intentionally. My mom responded that wills aren't everything and that family should come first. Lily then called me crying. She said she feels like I've always been the favorite and that this is just another example. She said she can't believe I'd let my niece grow up without stability when I could fix everything by signing over the house. She also said I didn't earn it, I just got lucky. That hurt because caring for our grandma wasn't easy, and it came at a cost to my career and social life at the time. I offered alternatives. I said they could stay with me short-term while they get back on their feet, or I could help them with a security deposit for a new place. I even offered to let them rent the house at a very low cost if I moved into a smaller apartment nearby. All of these were rejected. Lily said she doesn't want to live in a house that's technically mine because it would make her feel like a guest. My mom said renting it to them would be profiting off family. Now the extended family is involved. Aunts, uncles, and even cousins I barely talk to have messaged me, saying I'm being cold and materialistic. Some have said I don't understand real responsibility because I don't have kids. Others have hinted that if I ever need help in the future, I shouldn't expect it. A few have outright said that if I don't give Lily the house, I should at least sell it and split the money, which was never part of the will. I feel like I'm losing my mind. I love my sister and my niece. I don't want them to struggle. But this house is my home, my biggest financial asset, and one of the last tangible connections I have to my grandma. If I give it up, I'll probably never be able to afford another house in this area. At the same time, the guilt is eating at me, especially when I see pictures of my niece and think about her future. I've started avoiding family gatherings and muted group chats because every conversation turns into pressure or passive-aggressive comments about doing the right thing. My mom told me last week that I'm tearing the family apart over a building. From my perspective, they're asking me to give up my entire future plan and security because it's convenient for them. So AITA for refusing to give my sister the house I inherited, even though she's struggling and everyone says I don't really need it. AITA for refusing to keep covering for my sister and exposing a family secret that made everyone furious. 19F, live at home while attending community college. My sister, Maya, 27F, moved back in a year ago after a messy breakup and losing her job. Our parents framed it as temporary, but a year later she's still here, contributing very little and somehow being treated like fragile glass. I've always been the responsible one. Good grades, part-time job, chores without reminders. Maya is the creative one, which in my family seems to mean she gets endless patience while everyone tiptoes around her feelings. About 6 months ago, my parents started asking me to do small favors related to Maya. At first it was harmless stuff, like picking up groceries she forgot or letting her use my car when she was too stressed to drive. Then it escalated. They asked me to call places pretending to be her because she had anxiety about phone calls. I hated it but did it anyway, telling myself it was helping her get back on her feet. The biggest issue was money. Maya told our parents she was freelancing online and would pay them back soon. In reality, she wasn't making anything. She'd borrow money for client software, course fees, or transport to meetings. Our parents didn't want to admit it wasn't working, so they asked me to quietly cover small expenses so Maya wouldn't feel judged. I paid for her phone bill twice, lent her cash for gas, and even used my savings once to cover a late fee she'd hidden. I started feeling sick every time my parents said, "Just help your sister, you're so good at managing things." It felt less like helping and more like enabling. Still, I kept quiet because every time I tried to bring it up, my mom would say Maya was trying her best, and my dad would get cold and say I was being selfish. The breaking point came last month. My parents were out of town for a weekend. Maya asked to borrow my car for one quick errand. I said no because I had work early the next morning. She took the keys anyway while I was showering. She didn't come back until 3 a.m., and the car was nearly out of gas with a new dent on the bumper. She brushed it off and said she'd figure it out later. The next morning, my dad called me furious about the dent, demanding to know what I'd done. Maya had told them I'd been out late with friends and damaged the car. Something in me snapped. I told him the truth. She took the car without permission, she'd been lying about her income, and I've been paying for things behind their backs because they asked me to. I also admitted I couldn't keep doing it and was done covering for her. When my parents got home, all hell broke loose. Maya screamed that I betrayed her and ruined her relationship with them. My mom cried and said she couldn't believe I'd kept secrets from them, completely ignoring that they were the ones who asked me to. My dad said I humiliated Maya and that family problems should stay inside the family, not be dumped all at once. Since then, the house has been unbearably tense. Maya barely speaks to me except to accuse me of destroying her confidence. My parents are split. My mom says she understands why I was overwhelmed, but still thinks I should have waited for a better moment. My dad thinks I should apologize to Maya for exposing her lies instead of quietly continuing to help. What really messes with my head is that part of me still feels guilty. I know Maya is struggling, and I didn't want to hurt her. But I was exhausted, broke, and tired of being treated like a tool to keep the peace. I didn't plan some dramatic reveal. I just refused to lie anymore when I was directly blamed for something I didn't do. Now extended family knows some of what happened because my parents vented to them, and I'm being labeled as the harsh one who kicked her sister when she was down. I'm questioning whether I handled it wrong, and if I should have kept my mouth shut longer for the sake of family harmony. So AITA for finally telling the truth and refusing to keep covering for my sister, even though it blew up my family dynamic. AITA for refusing to change my wedding date and menu to accommodate my stepmother's vision, even though my dad says I'm tearing the family apart. I, 26F, am getting married this fall to my partner of 5 years. We're paying for most of it ourselves with some help from my mom and my grandparents. My dad offered to contribute a fixed amount early on, which we accepted, and that was that. The date we chose has significance to us because it's the anniversary of when we moved in together and also the only weekend that works for several out-of-town relatives on my mom's side. We booked the venue over a year ago. My parents divorced when I was 14, and my dad remarried when I was 18 to my stepmother, Linda, 48F. We have never been close. She's not openly cruel, but she's very controlling and frames everything as help. She loves hosting themes and what she calls elevated experiences. Growing up, any event at my dad's house became about her preferences. If I pushed back, I was told I was being ungrateful. When we announced the engagement, Linda immediately started sending me Pinterest boards. I thanked her and said we already had a planner and a general idea. She replied that she just wanted to be supportive. Then she asked what colors we were using and seemed disappointed when I told her. She suggested alternatives. I declined politely. The problems really started when she learned the wedding date. She said it conflicted with her annual charity gala she helps organize. It's not her event. She's just on a committee, but she insisted it was very important for her image and connections. She asked me to move the wedding by 1 week. I explained that the venue was booked, deposits were non-refundable, and many guests had already planned travel. She said I was being inflexible and that family should come first. After that, she shifted tactics. She said if we couldn't change the date, we should at least adjust the reception so she could attend both. That turned into suggestions to shorten the reception, move the ceremony earlier, and change the menu to something lighter and quicker. We had chosen a family-style dinner with dishes that reflect my mom's cultural background. Linda said it was too heavy and that some of her friends my dad wanted to invite wouldn't like it. I said the guest list was already set and mostly family and close friends. She said since my dad was contributing money, he should be able to invite people important to him. I talked to my dad privately. He said Linda was stressed and just wanted to feel included. He asked me to compromise by letting her adjust the menu and add some of her friends. I reminded him that he offered a specific amount, not a partnership in planning. He got quiet and said money always makes people reveal who they are. The breaking point came at a family dinner. Linda announced, in front of my dad and my half-siblings, that she had spoken to a caterer she knows and could get us a much better deal if we switched menus. She listed changes that completely removed the dishes I was most excited about. I said, calmly, that we were not changing the menu and that I would appreciate it if she stopped making plans without asking. She laughed and said I was being dramatic and that weddings are about bringing families together, not making statements. I told her this wedding is about me and my partner, and we're allowed to make choices that reflect us. She said I was excluding her and that she felt like an outsider in her own family. My dad then said if I kept pushing her away, I shouldn't expect his financial help anymore. I said that was his choice, but we weren't changing the date or the menu. Since then, my dad has been distant. Linda has told extended family that I'm controlling and ungrateful, and that she tried so hard to help, but I shut her down. A few relatives have reached out saying I should just give in a little to keep the peace, that weddings are just one day, but family is forever. My mom is firmly on my side and says Linda is trying to make my wedding about herself. But even she admits the fallout is getting ugly. I feel awful because I don't want to lose my relationship with my dad, but I also feel like if I give in now, I'll regret it forever. I've tried to be polite, I've tried to compromise in small ways, but every inch seems to invite a mile. I never intended to exclude anyone. I just want a wedding that feels like ours. So AITA for standing my ground and refusing to change my wedding plans, even if it means my dad and stepmother might not fully participate or might pull their support. AITA for refusing to let my sister borrow my wedding after she ruined my engagement. I, 29F, am getting married to my fiancé Mark, 31M, this fall. We've been together for 6 years, engaged for 1. The planning has been slow but intentional because we're paying for most of it ourselves and try not to go into debt. My sister Lily, 27F, has always been louder, more impulsive, and more openly emotional than me. Growing up, she was the one who needed constant attention, and I was the easy kid. That dynamic never really changed, but I learned to live with it. When Mark proposed, it was during a small weekend trip to a cabin we rented with a few close friends. It wasn't flashy, but it was meaningful to us. Lily wasn't there. When she found out afterward, she was upset that she wasn't included and said a real proposal should involve family. I brushed it off as her being dramatic. A month later, Lily announced she was also engaged to her boyfriend of 8 months. Everyone was surprised, especially because they'd broken up twice already. Still, I congratulated her and tried to be supportive. Almost immediately, though, things got strange. She started making comments like, well, since you've already been engaged for a while, you probably won't mind if I get married first, and it would just make sense if we shared vendors so it's easier on everyone. At first I thought she was joking. Then she asked if she could use the same venue and date I had already put a deposit on because it was perfect and she didn't want to wait another year. I said no. I explained we'd already paid and planned around that date. She accused me of being selfish and said families should compromise. Things escalated when she suggested a joint wedding. Same day, same venue, double the love. I was shocked. I said absolutely not. I want my wedding to be about my relationship, not a spectacle or a compromise. She cried, called our parents, and suddenly I was being told I should at least consider it to keep the peace. Then came the engagement party. My parents insisted on hosting a combined engagement dinner for both of us. I reluctantly agreed. During the dinner, Lily gave a speech that turned into a rant about how some people think they're more deserving of special moments and how hard it is to always live in someone's shadow. People were staring at me. Mark was furious but stayed quiet. After that, Lily started telling relatives that I was trying to sabotage her happiness and that I thought her relationship was less valid because it moved faster. That's not true. I'm concerned, yes, but I've never said her engagement doesn't count. Still, the narrative stuck. The final straw came last week when Lily showed up to my dress fitting uninvited. She announced to the consultant that she'd also be getting married there and started trying on dresses just for fun. Then she asked me, in front of everyone, if she could use my decorations and guest list since most of the same people will be there anyway. I told her no, firmly, and asked her to leave. She stormed out in tears. Now my parents are saying I'm being inflexible and cruel, that Lily is sensitive and I should be the bigger person like I always have been. They say weddings are about family, not individuality, and that I'm creating a rift over one day. Mark supports me completely, but hates that I'm stressed and second-guessing myself. I don't want to share my wedding, my date, my planning, or my moment. I also don't want to permanently damage my relationship with my sister or parents. But I'm exhausted from always being asked to give up things so Lily can feel better. AITA for drawing a hard line and refusing to let my sister borrow any part of my wedding, even if it causes family tension. Hey friends, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she tried to reassign my role and my family told me to be grateful. I, 26F, have an older sister Emily, 29F. Growing up, Emily was always the golden child. She was louder, more confident, and better at asking for what she wanted. I was the quieter one who did what I was told. This dynamic has followed us into adulthood more than I realized. Emily got engaged last year to Mark, 32M. When she first told me, she was very emotional and said she couldn't imagine her wedding without me by her side. She asked me to be her maid of honor. I was honestly surprised, but really happy. We aren't best friends, but I thought this might be a chance to be closer. For the first few months, things were fine. I helped with venue tours, DIY decorations, and spreadsheets. I took time off work to go dress shopping with her. I paid for my own dress, shoes, hair trial, and chipped in for the bachelorette weekend. I never complained because I wanted to be supportive. The problem started when Emily's childhood best friend, Sarah, 29F, moved back to town. Sarah and Emily were inseparable in high school, but drifted apart when Sarah moved away. Suddenly, Sarah was everywhere. Emily started bringing her to fittings and planning sessions without telling me. She would say things like, "Sarah just gets my vision," or "Sarah already knows what I like." Then Emily casually mentioned in a group chat that Sarah would be giving a speech at the wedding. I asked if I was still giving one too. Emily replied, "We'll see, I don't want it to drag on." That hurt, but I let it go. A few weeks later, Emily asked if we could talk. She came over and explained that she had been thinking a lot and felt it would be more natural for Sarah to be maid of honor since they had known each other longer. She said the title didn't matter and that I could still stand next to her as a bridesmaid. She told me I should understand and not take it personally because it was her wedding. I was shocked. I asked why she didn't tell me sooner. She said she didn't want to deal with drama and assumed I would be flexible. I told her it felt like she was replacing me after I'd already put in so much time and money. She said I was focusing on the wrong thing and that I should be happy for her. I went home and cried. I talked to my parents about it, hoping for some support. Instead, they told me Emily was stressed and that weddings make people emotional. My mom said I should be proud that Emily even included me at all. My dad said it wasn't worth damaging our relationship over a title. A few days later, Emily sent me a new wedding schedule. I noticed I was moved from sitting at the head table to a side table with distant relatives. My responsibilities were removed, and Sarah's name was everywhere instead. There was no explanation. I called Emily and asked what was going on. She said since Sarah was maid of honor now, it made sense to reorganize things. She added that I seemed too sensitive lately, and she didn't want negative energy around her big day. That comment broke something in me. I told her that I felt used. I had invested time, money, and emotional energy because she asked me to be her maid of honor, not a background extra. I said it wasn't about the title, but about respect. She accused me of making her wedding about myself, and said if I couldn't be supportive, maybe I shouldn't come at all. I took her at her word. I told her I wouldn't attend the wedding. All hell broke loose. My parents called me, furious. My mom said I was humiliating Emily and causing unnecessary family drama. My dad said people would ask questions and it would reflect badly on the family. Emily texted me saying I was selfish and ruining what was supposed to be the happiest day of her life. Some relatives reached out to say I should be the bigger person and show up for the family. A few friends, however, told me that Emily's behavior was unfair and that I had every right to step back. I sent Emily a calm message explaining that I loved her but couldn't celebrate a day where I felt so disrespected. I wished her well and said I hoped she had a beautiful wedding. She left me on read. The wedding is in 2 months. I've already returned the dress and canceled my hotel reservation. Part of me feels relieved. Another part of me feels like I've confirmed everyone's belief that I'm difficult when I finally stand up for myself. So AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after being demoted and treated like I didn't matter. AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her emotional support dog to my wedding and telling her she shouldn't come if she can't leave it at home. AITA for context. I am 28F and getting married in 3 months. My fiancé and I are paying for most of the wedding ourselves with a little help from both sets of parents. We are not wealthy, but we've saved for years, and this is the one big event we're allowing ourselves. The venue is a restored historic house that also functions as a museum. One of the very first things they told us during the tour was that animals are not allowed inside, with the only exception being certified service animals. This rule is in the contract, and violating it can result in a hefty fine or the event being shut down. We chose the venue because it's meaningful to us and because it's one of the few affordable places that can host our guest list. My sister Lena is 31F. She has a dog named Milo that she calls her emotional support animal. Milo is not trained as a service dog. He does not perform specific tasks. He is registered online as an ESA, which I understand does not grant public access rights. Milo is also not particularly well-behaved in crowded environments. I've seen him bark, jump on people, and chew on furniture when he's stressed. Lena loves him deeply, and I don't hate the dog, but I'm realistic about his behavior. When we sent out save the dates, Lena called me immediately and asked if Milo would be allowed at the wedding. I told her no, because the venue doesn't allow animals unless they are service animals. She said Milo is essential for her anxiety and that leaving him for a whole day would be harmful to her mental health. I suggested several alternatives: having a trusted friend watch Milo, hiring a pet sitter, or even bringing Milo to town and leaving him at the hotel during the ceremony and reception. I also told her that if she needed breaks during the wedding, we could arrange a quiet room for her. Lena accused me of not taking her mental health seriously. She said that if I really cared about her, I would choose a venue that allows dogs or make an exception. I reminded her that the contract doesn't allow exceptions and that changing venues would cost us thousands we don't have. She then suggested that I lie and say Milo is a service animal. I refused because that's dishonest and could get us in serious trouble. Things escalated when our mom got involved. Mom thinks I should just let the dog come because family is more important than rules. I explained the venue contract again. She said I'm being inflexible and selfish, and that a wedding is about bringing people together, not about aesthetics or rules. I told her it's not about aesthetics, it's about respecting the venue and not risking our wedding being shut down. Lena then sent me a long message saying she feels excluded and punished for having anxiety. She said she has attended events without Milo before, but that weddings are particularly stressful, and she expected her sister to accommodate her. She also accused my fiancé of influencing me because he has mild allergies and doesn't love dogs. For the record, my fiancé did not push this decision. He just agrees that rules are rules. After weeks of back and forth, I finally told Lena that if she truly cannot attend without Milo, I understand, but we will miss her. I said I am not willing to risk our wedding or violate the contract. She responded by saying that I am choosing a building over my sister, that she will not attend at all. Now she has told extended family that I banned her for being anxious, and I'm getting messages from relatives saying I should apologize and reconsider. I feel awful. I love my sister and I want her there. But I also feel like I've offered reasonable compromises and that it's unfair to demand I change everything or break rules for her dog. I'm starting to doubt myself because so many people are telling me that a good sister would find a way. At the same time, I feel like if I give in on this, I'll resent her forever and be anxious the entire day that something will go wrong. So, AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her emotional support dog to my wedding and telling her she shouldn't come if she can't leave him at home. AITA for refusing to invite my half-sister to my wedding because of a past betrayal. I, 28F, am engaged to my fiancé, Daniel, 30M, and we are in the middle of planning what we hope will be a small but meaningful wedding. We have both been very particular about who we want there, mostly close friends and family. My parents divorced when I was young, and while I have always maintained a relationship with both, it's complicated. My dad remarried when I was 14, and that's where the problem comes in. My half-sister, Mia, 25F, is my dad's daughter with his second wife. When Mia was born, I was admittedly a little jealous, but we managed to coexist. However, things started going downhill a few years ago. Mia and I were forced to spend a lot of time together during family vacation, and she ended up doing something I consider a huge betrayal. She shared something extremely personal about me with my dad, something I had told her in confidence when I thought we were close. It was embarrassing and deeply hurtful. I confronted her about it, and she admitted she had done it intentionally to gain my dad's approval. I tried to forgive her at the time, but the trust was broken, and our relationship has never been the same. Fast forward to now, my wedding is coming up, and my dad and stepmom have made it very clear that Mia wants an invitation. I told them honestly that I do not feel comfortable having her there because of what happened and how it affected me. My dad said I was being dramatic and unfair, and my stepmom tried to guilt-trip me, saying that my fiancé and I are being cold and selfish, and that Mia deserves to celebrate this moment too. I explained to my dad and stepmom that while I understand family is important, this isn't just about being mean. It's about my comfort and the fact that I do not trust Mia to respect me or my boundaries. I offered a compromise. She could be invited to a post-wedding family dinner if she agreed to keep things civil, but I could not have her at the ceremony or reception itself. My dad refused and said that by excluding Mia, I am choosing her feelings over the family's and making things worse than they need to be. Now, some other family members have gotten involved. My aunt, who I'm close to, said she understands my hesitation but thinks I should just let it go for one day. My mom has been supportive but also nervous about any potential drama. My fiancé is fully backing me and thinks I should set firm boundaries, especially for a day that's supposed to be about us. The tension has escalated to the point that my dad hinted he might not come if Mia isn't invited, which really hurts because I do want him there. However, I feel like giving in now would set a precedent for allowing people to disregard my feelings in the future. Some friends think I am overreacting and that weddings are time to forgive, but I feel like forgiving doesn't mean pretending nothing happened or inviting someone who caused real emotional harm. I also worry that if I allow her there, she will try to insert herself into the spotlight or create drama. On the other hand, the thought of my dad being upset or even absent from my wedding makes me feel guilty. I've been weighing all of this and trying to think long-term. If I invite Mia, it might temporarily soothe my dad and stepmom, but I know the underlying trust issues will still be there. I don't want my wedding to be overshadowed by past conflicts or potential tension. If I don't invite her, I risk my dad being upset and potentially creating a rift with other family members. I'm torn because I want my wedding to be joyful and stress-free, but I also don't want to compromise my boundaries or invite someone who has proven they cannot respect me. Every time I bring up my feelings, I get labeled as dramatic or difficult, which makes me question myself, but I genuinely believe that my comfort on my own wedding day should be a priority. I'm also concerned about long-term family dynamics. If I let this go now, it could send a message that my feelings don't matter, and I fear that will have repercussions beyond just the wedding. My dad says I'm making Mia the villain unfairly, but from my perspective, she broke my trust in a serious way. I'm trying to figure out if I'm being too harsh or if it's reasonable to protect my own space on such a significant day. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to invite my half-sister to my wedding because of a past betrayal, even if it might upset my dad and other family members. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé. I, 27F, have always been very close with my older sister, Emily, 30F. We grew up in the same household, went to the same schools, and even shared some of the same friends. Over the years, our bond has been really strong, and we've supported each other through a lot. That's why the situation I'm about to describe is so painful for me, because I never imagined it would come to this. Emily recently got engaged to a man named Brad, 32M. At first, I was happy for her. I wanted to be supportive and excited about her new chapter in life. But soon after their engagement, I started noticing things about Brad that made me uncomfortable. It wasn't just little quirks. I'm talking about behaviors that felt controlling, dismissive, and sometimes outright rude, not just toward me, but toward other people in general. The first major red flag was when Emily invited me to a small dinner at their place shortly after the engagement. Brad spent most of the evening making passive-aggressive comments about my life choices, like my decision to work in a creative field instead of pursuing a stable career, and interrupted my stories constantly. Emily laughed off most of it, which I interpreted as her trying to keep the peace, but I left feeling really belittled. Over the next few months, things didn't improve. Whenever I visited, Brad would make snide remarks about my appearance, my eating habits, and even my friendships. He has a very opinionated personality, and Emily always seemed to be torn between defending me and not upsetting him. I started noticing that she was changing too. She was quieter around me, less open, and more hesitant to express herself. It became apparent that Brad had a pretty strong influence on her. The breaking point came when Emily asked me to help with some wedding planning. She wanted me to be her maid of honor. Normally, I would have jumped at the chance, but Brad's presence changed everything. During one of the planning sessions, he criticized every idea I suggested and then proceeded to rewrite the whole plan himself without even asking for Emily's opinion. Emily just nodded along. When I politely pushed back, he snapped at me, saying I was being dramatic and that I was making things about myself. I left that day feeling humiliated and deeply frustrated. I decided I needed to take a step back for my own mental health. I tried talking to Emily about my concerns, but she dismissed them. She said I was overreacting, that Brad didn't mean anything by it, and that I should just get along for her sake. I explained that it wasn't about a single incident, but a pattern of behavior that made me uncomfortable. She said she understood, but insisted that I should put my feelings aside because it was her wedding and she wanted everyone there to be happy. As the wedding date approached, I was struggling with anxiety about attending. I genuinely feared that Brad would do or say something humiliating, and I didn't want to be in an environment where I felt unsafe emotionally. I spoke to my parents about it, hoping they would help mediate, but they told me I was being dramatic and that family comes first. They said I would regret not going and that Emily would be heartbroken if I skipped the wedding. After a lot of internal debate, I made the decision to decline being part of the wedding party. I explained to Emily that while I love her and want her to be happy, I couldn't participate in a celebration that would involve enduring Brad's behavior. I told her that I would attend as a guest, but I couldn't play a central role. I thought this was a compromise, but Emily reacted very badly. She accused me of being selfish, of ruining her big day, and of choosing a stranger over her. I tried to reason with her, explaining that it wasn't about choosing Brad over her. It was about protecting my mental health and boundaries. She refused to listen and eventually stopped responding to my messages. I haven't spoken to her in over a month, and she's now sending subtle messages through family members implying that I'm not really her sister anymore and that I'm destroying the family dynamic. My parents and some extended family members are pressuring me to attend fully and be part of the bridal party, but I feel strongly that doing so would compromise my well-being. I still love my sister and want her to be happy, but I can't ignore my instincts about Brad. I feel torn between my loyalty to my sister and my need to protect myself. Some of my friends think I'm right to set boundaries, but others say I'm overreacting and that I should just suck it up for one day. I don't want to escalate things further or completely cut Emily out, but I also don't want to be manipulated or humiliated. I'm hoping someone can give me an honest perspective on whether I'm in the wrong for refusing to be part of the wedding party because of her fiancé. AITA? AITA for refusing to let my brother's girlfriend stay at my house after a huge argument? So, this is going to be long, but I'll try to make it as clear as possible. I, 28F, have a younger brother, Mike, 24M, who has been dating his girlfriend, Jenna, 23F, for about 2 years. Mike and I have always had a decent relationship, but Jenna has always rubbed me the wrong way. I've tried to give her a fair chance, but she has a very controlling personality and often tries to manipulate situations to get her way. My parents love her, but they tend to side with whoever is in the room and keep the peace, so they usually just shrug things off. About a week ago, Mike called me and said that Jenna's apartment had a leak and she couldn't stay there until it got fixed. He asked if she could stay at my place for a few nights while he went on a work trip. I was hesitant because I've had issues with her in the past and I live alone, but I wanted to be a good sister, so I tentatively agreed. I made it clear that she was welcome for a short stay and that my rules applied. She couldn't treat my house like her own. She needed to respect my schedule, and I expected basic decency. Mike assured me she would be fine. The first night went okay. I came home from work, and she was polite, helped herself to dinner, but didn't make a mess. I thought maybe I was overreacting about her. But the next morning, I woke up to find that she had rearranged my living room furniture. I'm very particular about my space. I like things exactly how they are, and I had specifically told her not to move anything. I asked her why she did it, and she said, I just thought it looked better this way. You don't mind, right? I told her it was not okay and asked her to put everything back. She huffed and muttered that I was too controlling and no one could ever relax in my house. That afternoon, I went to the store, and when I got back, I found that she had gone through my fridge and eaten things I had clearly labeled as mine. I told her again that I didn't appreciate her touching my food without permission, and she said I was being dramatic and overreacting. The next day, things escalated. I came home to find her had invited her friend over without asking me. I walked in, and there were 3 extra people in my living room, drinking my drinks and using my bathroom. I was furious and asked everyone to leave. She got defensive and said I was ruining her fun and that I needed to lighten up. I lost my temper and told her she had overstayed her welcome and needed to leave. She refused, saying Mike would be angry if I made her leave. At that point, I called Mike. He got annoyed with me and said that I was being unreasonable and that she was just trying to relax. I told him that I didn't mind helping, but she had completely ignored my house rules and that I felt disrespected. He tried to pressure me, saying she didn't have anywhere else to go and that I was being selfish. I told him that helping someone doesn't mean letting them take over your home or disrespect your boundaries, and that he needed to figure out his own problem. He hung up. Jenna refused to leave that evening. She acted sulky, said she didn't feel welcome, and kept making passive-aggressive comments about my controlling nature. I finally threatened to call the police if she didn't leave, and only then did she pack her things. Mike has since been avoiding me, and my parents think I overreacted. They told me that I should have been nicer, and that she was just a guest. A few of my friends have sided with me, saying that she was completely disrespectful, but some of my extended family members think I was too harsh, and that family should always accommodate each other. I honestly feel like I was completely within my rights to set boundaries in my own home. I don't mind helping out, but I feel like she intentionally disrespected me and my space. The situation left me feeling angry, disrespected, and frustrated that my own brother couldn't back me up. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my brother's girlfriend stay after she ignored my rules, rearranged my furniture, ate my food, invited strangers over, and refused to leave. This version is about 6,400 characters, keeping it in the long, detailed style typical of viral AITA posts. If you want, I can rewrite it to hit exactly 7,000 characters with a few more dramatic details and tension points to make it even more Reddit viral style. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to apologize to my sister after her wedding disaster. My sister, Jenna, has always been the golden child. Growing up, our parents constantly compared me to her, and while I try to be supportive, it always felt like I was living in her shadow. I've come to terms with that over the years, but a recent event at her wedding has brought everything to the surface again. Jenna got married last month, and I was the maid of honor. I spent months helping her with the planning, organizing bridal showers, and making sure every little detail was perfect. I even helped pick her dress, sat through countless cake tastings, and practically memorized the seating chart. I genuinely wanted her to have the best day ever, and I thought she appreciated my effort. The problem started during the rehearsal dinner. I had spent the day helping with last-minute decorations and running errands, so by the time the rehearsal started, I was exhausted. My sister had decided to have a very themed rehearsal dinner with a mix of weird activities that she thought would make the night fun, including an awkward scavenger hunt and a karaoke session. I politely declined to participate in the scavenger hunt because I was tired, but I was pressured into doing karaoke. During my song, I noticed a few people recording, and I sang a little off-key because I was nervous. Jenna laughed at me afterward, but I brushed it off, thinking she was just teasing. Things escalated the next morning during the hair and makeup session. The stylist accidentally put a slightly darker shade of lipstick on me, and when I asked for it to be adjusted, Jenna snapped at me, saying I was stealing attention from her and that I was being dramatic for no reason. I tried to stay calm, but she kept making passive-aggressive comments like, maybe if you smiled more, you'd look nicer in photos, and just try not to ruin any pictures today. I brushed it off and focused on helping her, but I could tell tension was building. Fast forward to the ceremony. Everything was going smoothly until the photographer asked for group photos. Jenna insisted on a very specific lineup that included me standing in a position that was awkward and exposed me to direct sunlight. I tried to move slightly, but she yelled at me in front of everyone to stay put. My face got sunburned, and I ended up looking red and blotchy in the photos. I was frustrated, but didn't say anything because I wanted the day to go smoothly. The real issue happened at the reception. During the speeches, our cousin, who was a little loud and awkward, made a joke about me being the perfect little helper and how I always get overlooked. Jenna immediately got defensive and said, "Can we not ruin this day with old family issues?" I stayed quiet, but I could feel the tension rising. Later, when it came time to dance with her father, she asked me to help organize the song playlist. I noticed that one of the songs she requested was inappropriate for a father-daughter dance because it was extremely suggestive. I politely told her I didn't think it was suitable, but she insisted. I ended up talking to the DJ discreetly and asked him to play a more appropriate song without telling her directly. When she found out later that night, she completely lost it. She screamed at me in front of all the guests, accusing me of controlling her wedding and trying to make it about myself. I tried to explain that I was only trying to avoid an embarrassing situation, but she would not listen. She demanded that I apologize to her right there, in front of everyone, and when I refused, saying that I had only acted out of concern, she stormed off. After the wedding, our parents called me and told me I needed to apologize to Jenna because I had ruined her special day and that I should have let her make her own mistakes. My friends who attended the wedding told me that Jenna overreacted and that I didn't actually ruin anything, but I still felt conflicted. Since then, Jenna has refused to speak to me and has been posting passive-aggressive things on social media about family drama and people who think they know better than the bride. My parents keep pressuring me to reach out and apologize, but I genuinely feel like I did nothing wrong. I helped with nearly everything, and my intentions were never to upset her. If anything, I feel like she's punishing me for being cautious and thinking ahead. My friends are divided. Some say that even if I was right, I should apologize to mend a relationship, but others say I shouldn't be forced to apologize for trying to prevent her wedding from being embarrassing. I feel like apologizing would be admitting to something I didn't do wrong, and I'm worried it will set a precedent where she can yell at me and expect me to bend every time. So, AITA for refusing to apologize to my sister, even though she thinks I ruined her wedding day. The story is long, complicated, and family dynamics are messy, but I honestly feel like I was in a no-win situation. I tried to support her, but every attempt to be helpful seemed to be interpreted as criticism. AITA for refusing to give my cousin a huge sum of money for a once-in-a-lifetime investment opportunity, even though it caused a huge family fight. So, I, 24F, recently found myself in the middle of a massive family drama, and I honestly don't know if I'm being unreasonable or not. I've been struggling with whether to post this, but here goes. My cousin, let's call her Emma, 27F, has always been a little intense when it comes to her financial ideas. She's extremely ambitious and tends to jump from one golden opportunity to another. Most of the time, I think she's harmless, but she has a history of bad investments and, frankly, being a little manipulative when it comes to getting money from family. My parents have tried to support her over the years, but it's always ended in them lending her money that never gets paid back. A few weeks ago, Emma called me out of the blue. She sounded really excited, which is typical for her when she has some scheme. She told me she'd found this investment opportunity that's supposed to be guaranteed to triple your money in 6 months. She said she couldn't get in unless she raised a substantial amount immediately, around $15,000. She asked if I could loan her the money to get started. At first, I laughed because $15,000 is a lot for me. I'm still living on a modest salary after college, paying off my student loans, and trying to save for my own apartment. I told her I didn't have that kind of cash to just give or loan her. She didn't take no for an answer. She kept saying things like, "You don't understand, this is life-changing," and I'd never ask if I didn't think this was 100% safe. I tried to reason with her, explaining that she's had several life-changing opportunities before that didn't pan out, and that I can't risk money I literally don't have. She got really upset and said I was being unsupportive and selfish. She even suggested that if I truly cared about family, I'd trust her judgment and help her out. That's when I realized this wasn't just about money. This was about control and guilt. I spoke to my parents about it. My dad said he'd talk to her, but my mom surprisingly told me I should just give her the money if I could because family always comes first. That felt wrong to me, honestly. I mean, I love my family, but my financial security is important too. I told my mom that I'm not giving her $15,000 and that if Emma really believed in this investment, she should find a bank loan, investors, or other ways to fund it. Emma found out I hadn't budged and called me. She was livid. She accused me of not caring about her dreams, of being greedy, and of siding with my parents for not helping her when she needed it. She even tried to guilt me by saying, "When I succeed, I'll make sure you regret not believing in me." That honestly scared me a little, but I stayed firm. I said no and ended the call. Then things escalated. Emma started telling other family members that I had refused to help her because I was selfish and didn't care about family. A lot of extended relatives started messaging me, asking why I wouldn't help her. Some said I should just stretch myself a little to help family. I tried to explain my financial situation honestly, but most of them just said I was being stubborn. The worst part was at our last family gathering. Emma didn't speak to me the entire time. She made snide remarks loudly enough for everyone to hear, like, some people care more about their money than family, and I guess some people only support their cousins when it's convenient. It was humiliating because some relatives seemed to side with her, even though they knew I'm not rich and that $15,000 would be a huge sacrifice. I've spent the last week debating with myself about whether I did the right thing. Part of me feels guilty because, yeah, family is important, but another part of me knows that giving her $15,000 would have been reckless and could have ruined me financially. I also can't ignore that she's asked for big sums before and never paid anything back. It feels like she just sees me as a bank rather than a cousin. Some friends told me I was right to stand my ground, while others suggested I could have at least lent her a smaller, more manageable amount. I feel like even if I gave her a smaller sum, she might have pressured me for more, which seems unfair. So now I'm stuck. Emma is barely speaking to me, my parents are frustrated, and some relatives are gossiping behind my back. I don't want to damage my family relationships, but I also can't sacrifice my financial stability for someone else's risky dreams. I honestly don't know if I'm the asshole here. I feel like I'm just protecting myself, but my cousin is painting me as this villain to the whole family. So Reddit, AITA? AITA for refusing to let my sister-in-law's dog live with us, even though my brother begged me? I, 27F, have always been a bit of a rule follower, and one of the biggest rules in my life is that I do not have pets in my apartment. I have allergies, a hectic job, and live in a very small space, so I've never wanted a dog. I've made this very clear to my partner, Mike, 28M, and to my family. My brother, Tom, 32M, has always been the animal person in the family, while I've been the allergic, tidy, independent one. Tom has a dog, Daisy, who he's had for 5 years. She's a small, energetic terrier mix. I like Daisy well enough, but every time I visit Tom, I'm sneezing and itching nonstop, so I try to keep visits short. Last week, Tom called me in a panic. He and his wife just had a baby, and Daisy had started biting at the baby's toys and generally acting out. Tom said that his wife had lost patience and was threatening to rehome Daisy if something didn't change. I told him gently that I couldn't take Daisy. Our apartment is tiny, my partner works long hours, and I have allergies, but Tom started begging. He said he had tried dog trainers, new toys, even locking Daisy in a room when she misbehaved, but nothing was helping. He insisted that if I didn't take Daisy, they might have to give her to a shelter, and he kept crying over the phone. I told him again that I couldn't, but then he said something that really made me pause. It's just temporary. We'll come get her in a few months when we're more settled. You don't have to keep her forever, just until we get things figured out. Mike was out of town when this happened, and I panicked. I didn't want to be the sister who let her brother down. So I said yes. I told Tom we could take Daisy temporarily. When Daisy arrived, it was a nightmare. She scratched at the doors, barked constantly, and my allergies went through the roof. Mike came home and immediately noticed the dog hair everywhere and the sneezing I couldn't control. I admitted that I had agreed to take Daisy just temporarily, and that I wasn't thinking about how bad it would be. Mike was angry, but he didn't yell. He just said he didn't understand why I agreed when I knew it would be so difficult. I tried to manage Daisy the best I could. I took her on walks multiple times a day, bought toys, tried training apps, and even bought an air purifier. But it didn't help much. My sleep suffered, my allergies got worse, and I was always on edge because I couldn't have guests over and couldn't leave for work without worrying about Daisy. Meanwhile, Tom kept calling every day, asking for updates on Daisy. At first, he was grateful, but soon he started criticizing me. He would say things like, "Maybe you need to be stricter with her," or "You're not giving her enough attention." One day, he accused me of spoiling Daisy because I had let her sleep in my bedroom the night before. I tried to explain that if I didn't let her sleep somewhere, she would be under my desk barking all night, but he got upset and hung up on me. A week later, Tom and his wife came over to check on Daisy and ended up staying for hours. They watched me walk her, feed her, and clean up after her. Tom said, "I can't believe how hard you've made this. I thought you said you wanted to help, but you're clearly not cut out for this." I was furious, and Mike told him they needed to leave because it was my house and my rules. Tom stormed out, yelling that I was selfish and didn't care about family. That night, Mike and I talked. He said he felt bad for me because I was putting all the responsibility on myself, but he also reminded me that I had agreed to this. I realized that I had overcommit because I felt guilty about my brother's situation, but the truth is, my home and health were suffering because of it. I told Mike that I would contact Tom and tell him Daisy couldn't stay with us anymore. The next day, I called Tom and explained that I had underestimated how hard it would be and that it wasn't fair to anyone to have Daisy here. I offered to help him find a dog sitter or a temporary foster home, but I could not keep her. Tom yelled at me, accusing me of breaking my promise, and said I was letting the family down. I tried to calmly explain that agreeing under guilt wasn't a real solution and that everyone, including Daisy, would be better off if she went somewhere she could be properly cared for. Since then, my family has split into two camps. Mike supports me 100%, but some of my relatives have been texting me, saying I should have sacrificed for my brother and that I'm too selfish. My parents are trying to stay neutral, but I know Tom is still angry and thinks I'm the villain. So, AITA for refusing to let my brother's dog live with us. Even though I initially said yes under pressure, I really wanted to help, but it became clear that I physically and mentally could not handle it, and I feel like I was being blamed for being honest about my limits. Character count, 6,395 if you want. I can also create a second version that's even longer, closer to 7,000 characters, with more drama and family conflict to make it feel like a viral Reddit post. That version would include side arguments, neighbors noticing the chaos, and more emotional tension. Do you want me to do that? Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos also. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.